All right, if you're a Canadian who's been dreaming of a trip to China, listen up, because things are about to get a whole lot simpler. I'm talking about a massive change to the travel rules. Forget all the paperwork, forget the fees. Starting in 2026, the game is completely changing. So let's break down exactly what this means for you. For years, this was the drill, right? A super complicated application, a trip to get your biometrics taken, and a fee of around $140. It was a whole process. But come February 2026, all of that gets tossed out the window and replaced with just two words: visa free. This is a huge deal, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. So what is this big announcement all about? Well, the news drops straight from China's foreign ministry, and it confirms a major policy shift that puts Canada into a pretty exclusive club of countries. Okay, so the official term sounds a little bit bureaucratic. It's a unilateral visa-free pilot program. But let's break that down. Unilateral is the key here. It means it's a one-way street. China's opening its doors to Canadians, but Canada isn't required to do the same in return. And that other word, pilot, that's also really important. It means this is a test run. We'll definitely circle back to that later. So who exactly gets to take advantage of this awesome new policy? Well, if you've got a regular Canadian passport, you're pretty much set. Whether you're a tourist, traveling for business, visiting family and friends, or even just passing through, you are covered. This is really designed to make things easier for the vast majority of people who want to travel.
Of course, like with any new policy, the devil's in the details. So let's get into the specifics of what you absolutely need to know before you even think about booking that flight. Okay, here are the core facts you need to remember. You get to stay for up to 30 days per entry, which is actually double what a lot of other countries get, so that's a huge plus. But pay really close attention to the dates. This is a pilot program, and for now, it's only running from February 17th through to the end of the year, December 31st, 2026. So you'll want to mark those calendars. Now, a massive change like this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. There's actually a fascinating diplomatic story playing out behind the scenes here. It's all about rebuilding connections after what's been a pretty strange few years. The timing here is definitely not a coincidence. Check this out. In January 2026, Canadian Prime Minister Carney goes to Beijing for what was called a fence-mending visit. Barely a month later, boom, this new visa-free policy is announced. It's a pretty clear signal that those high-level talks directly led to a real, tangible benefit for everyday people. And this quote, right here, it really gets to the heart of the whole thing. The motivation wasn't just about getting more tourists. It was framed as a vital step in rebuilding trust between the two countries. It's a perfect example of how something as simple as a visa waiver can actually be a really powerful tool in diplomacy. All right, enough with the political backstory. Let's get practical. You're ready to pack your bags. What do you actually need to have with you when you touch down in China? Look, even without needing a visa, you can't just show up empty-handed. These three things are absolutely non-negotiable. First, your passport has to be valid for at least 6 months from the day you enter. Second, you have to prove you're planning on leaving, so have your return ticket handy. And third, you need to show them where you're staying. Super simple, but super essential. Now, here's where things can get a little confusing, because China already had a kind of visa-free option for Canadians. So let's clear this up right now, because the difference between the old policy and this new one is absolutely critical. Here it is, the key difference. The old transit policy required you to be flying onto a third country. It was for transit, literally. So a simple round trip, say from Toronto to Shanghai and then back to Toronto, would not qualify. But this new 30-day policy, it changes everything. That exact round trip is now totally possible, which makes planning your travel 1,000 times easier. So, what does this policy shift mean for the bigger picture? Well, the ripple effects are already starting to show up, and they're impacting everything from airline routes to how Canadian companies do business. Yeah, the impact is already being felt. You've got airlines like Air Canada adding more flights, WestJet is looking into new routes. Businesses are projected to save a ton of money. We're talking over $2,000 a year for each person who travels frequently. And this is all part of a much bigger goal to boost travel back up from just 30% of what it was before the pandemic. It's not just about tourism either. This is tied to new trade agreements in key areas like electric vehicles and agriculture. But, and this is a really important but, we have to come back to that word pilot. Officials are being very clear that this is a trial run.
It's an absolutely fantastic opportunity for 2026, but its future beyond that date is not guaranteed. It could be changed or it could be revoked. And that leaves us with the big question, doesn't it? Is this just a temporary handshake, a short-term plan to boost travel and goodwill? Or are we seeing the beginning of a whole new, much simpler era for travel between Canada and China? For now, only time will tell.